what's going on, everybody? I gotta stretch. I am very, very tired today. So, we are on lesson 11. We did page 1 yesterday, and we're going into page 2 today. And we are talking about function models today. So we're not going to actually be solving for any variable. We're just modeling the equations, and that's it. And it'll make more sense when I start drawing it out and solving it with you guys. But I'm hoping that today is going to be pretty brief. We only got these two questions, these two word problems. One is going to be talking about a highway department trying to fence in an area off the side, usually like rest stops that you guys would see on the thruway. And then exercise number 2 is talking about profit, cost, and the amount of money, total amount of money that a company can make based on the number of products that they make. So real world stuff, mostly if you're going into like business. Let's see here. What do we got? A little after 4. It says I got 3 people in here. Yeah, I'll just go with it. If somebody needs to go back and watch, they can. So the first one says that we got the highway department is planning on building a picnic area for motorists along a major highway. It is to be rectangular with an area of 5,000 square yards and is to be fenced off on the 3 sides not adjacent to the highway. So express the number of yards of fencing required as a function of the length of its unfenced side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw my highway. And then I'm going to draw a little fence. They said it's a rectangular fence that's going to be going up right to the highway. I want this straightened for me. Straighten for me. Yeah, that is not straight. Whatever. So, I got my little highway all the way across. This is a little picnic area. And it says that the picnic area has an area of 5,000 square yards. Now, we don't know the sides of this rectangle. However, we do know that opposite sides of a rectangle are the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to call this X. I'm going to call this X. And then I'm going to call the bottom Y because it's a different length. So it says express the number of yards of fencing required. When we're looking at the fencing, we're looking at the total distance around. So if you're looking at the total distance around, in math, we call that the perimeter. So we could figure out what that perimeter is going to be because the perimeter is just going to be all those sides added together. Oops. As far as the area goes, the area was already given to us. But I'm also going to write down in terms of X and Y what the area is going to be. And since it's a rectangle, the area of a rectangle is always base times height. So in this case, it's just going to be X times Y. So those right there are the two formulas. So I'm just going to write in the other information that we were given. We're also given that the area is equal to 5,000. So I can rewrite both of these equations. The top equation, I can rewrite it as perimeter is 2x plus y. And as far as the area goes, we can say that is 5,000 is equal to xy. So right now we have 2 equations. They want us to write it as one function. So what we have to do is plug our one function in for the other. So it says express the number of yards of fencing required as a function of the length of the unfenced side. Well, the unfenced side is the side that's up against the road. So in this case, the unfenced side is y. So what they want us to do for this equation is they want us to solve one of these 2 equations for y and plug it in for the other. Now, in this case, because we're trying to express the number of yards of fencing, that means we're trying to find the perimeter. So if we're trying to find the perimeter, that means we have to be able to plug it in to this equation in order to solve it. And again, we're not solving per se. What we're doing is we're just trying to simplify the function so there is only one function. So in order to do so, we said that we had to get that unfenced side all by itself. So we're just going to do that in the area equation. So what we want to do is get y all alone, so then we could plug it into the other equation and have one overall function. So if I look at this area formula, the only way I can get y all by itself is if I divide both sides by x. So I'm going to have 5,000 over x is equivalent to y. Now again, since the y was the unfenced side, we can now just take this and substitute it into our other function. So I'm just going to take it and I'm going to plug it in for that y, and then we will have an equation that we can write out for perimeter. So we have p is equal to 2x plus 5,000 over x. So in this case, these word problems, just like I know you guys have had in the past, some of you guys may struggle with it. You just have to make sure that you're reading everything carefully. So because this said that we had the unfenced side, that's where that y came from. Y is the unfenced side, so it's telling us to solve for y. They also said that we were looking for the number of yards of fencing. So if you're ever fencing in a yard, that's always going to be your perimeter. So they told you to solve for the perimeter equation by plugging in that y value. Okay. So I'm going to do one more of these, and then I'll open up the homework just so I can look at it with you guys to make sure that we're all good. As far as exercise number 2 goes, this one's actually talking money this time. So I'm going to write out a little equation off to the side first. We've talked about this equation in the past before, but profit is equal to revenue minus cost. So profit is equal to revenue minus cost. Revenue is the amount of money that we spend on a product. So in this case, this problem is talking about producing radios. And I know we all still go out and buy radios today. This was probably an old problem that came out of like a pre-calculus textbook. To make it, let's say, iPhones. So a manufacturer can produce so many iPhones, they probably can make an iPhone for like 20 bucks. And then they sell that iPhone for like $700-800. So the revenue is represented by how much we spend as consumers. It's how much money we spend for their product. So we'll go out and spend $800 on an iPhone. The cost is how much that they had to pay to make that phone. So if they only had to spend $20 to make the phone, if you subtract the two numbers, you got their profit. So odds are for every iPhone that's being sold, Apple is probably making about $600, I bet. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I'm making up these numbers, but I really would not be surprised. So in this case, it's talking about radios. So it says a manufacturer can produce radios at a cost of $10 a piece, and estimated that if they are sold for X dollars, consumers will buy approximately 80 minus X radios each month. So they're saying that the cost is equivalent to $10 per radio, $10 a piece. So they are sold for X dollars. Now the X dollars is represented by how much that they're being sold for. So the $10 is just how much it's costing them to make, and it's $10 per radio, so I'm just going to write it down as 10x. So for every radio they sell, 10 bucks. Consumers will buy approximately 80 minus X radios each month. So now we have to look at the revenue. So the revenue always represents the consumers. It represents us, how much money we are willing to spend for something. So the consumer in this case says that it's 80 minus X. That's how much we're going to buy per month, but we also have to multiply it by how many that were sold. Because we're looking at the price in dollars. So the price in dollars for this case was X. So if we want to find the profit or the minimum number of radios that must be sold in order for the manufacturer to make a profit, what we can do is take this information and plug it in to the formula that I just wrote up top. And of course the iPad froze again, so I will wait a second as it unfreezes. There it goes. So we just want to plug everything into the main profit formula. So I have the revenue. I'll just write P for profit. The revenue is X times 80 minus X. It doesn't matter what order you write it in. I'm flipping it around because I like distributing it that way. Minus 10X. So all I did was plug it in, and now I'm just going to simplify it. We can't actually solve for the price. And we might be able to factor it and solve for the price, but let's see. So we'll have P equals 80x minus, not 8x, 80x minus x squared minus 10x. We'll have P is equal to, if we combine like terms, 80x minus 10x will be 70x minus x squared. And it does look like we can factor this, and we can get two solutions to try to figure out the minimum number of radios that needs to be sold for a profit. So if I go to factor this, I can factor it with, it looks like GCF. So I can pull an x on the outside. I'm going to have 70 minus x. And then I can just simply t-chart it. So on the left side, we'll have x equals 0, which x equals 0 radios is not a profit. That's probably what we started at. So that doesn't help us at all. We can just get rid of that answer. As far as the other side goes, if we were to solve 70 minus x equals 0, it looks like we're going to be at 70 radios. Oops. Oh my gosh. So 70 radios need to be sold in order for this company to make profit. If you guys are taking a business class, you probably did a little bit more with profit, revenue, and cost. We've done a little bit throughout the years here in high school math. That might come up here and there in your future, especially if you're going into a business field. That's probably the most important formula that you would see in a business field. But yeah, just wanted to throw another one at you guys by plugging it in. I'm going to jump into homework number 11. And I'm just going to explain. So first of all, you got 3 questions on here. Number 3 is very, very similar to what we just did in that last question. Number 1 is similar to the first question. It's just the differences in number 1. It's the fences across a stream. So it's very, very similar. So make sure that you're feeling okay with that. And then number 2, you just have to write out the equations. So you have to write out the 2 equations. So it says the sum of 2 numbers is 18. Remember what sum is. And then it says the product of express the product of the numbers as a function of the smaller number. So see if you could try to break down what the two equations are and substitute in. If you guys have trouble with it, I know a lot of you guys do have trouble with word problems, so don't be afraid to contact me if that is the case. There is no lesson tomorrow, Friday the 24th, so it's kind of a work day. Message me if you got them. I know that a lot of you guys emailed me some homeworks or turned them in on Shobi. I haven't sat down and graded them. I think that's what my game plan is tomorrow. I'm just going to sit in front of my computer and put all those grades in. So if you do have a 0, I will make sure to have that switched for you by the end of tomorrow. Okay? So that is all I have for you guys today. Enjoy your weekend if I don't talk to you tomorrow. I'll still be at my Zoom office hours if you want to attend. Otherwise, have a good one, guys.